Welcome back to the Robocast. And many of you know that one of my guilty pleasures is professional wrestling. From being a little kid and watching The Undertaker get buried alive, my dad was there and it was just my thing. I was hooked. I've been lucky enough to live in the Dallas Fort Worth area. And as a kid, I got to go to the world famous Sportatorium. Do I remember the matches? No, but I was there. If you go even further back, as like a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, there's photos of me on the shoulder of Kevin Von Erich. I apologize. So I'll always be there. It'll always be part of what makes me me. So when I see someone like the person we're going to talk to today, I instantly gravitate to them. I want to talk about them. I want to know their story. I want to know what makes them do this crazy profession that entertains us, yet tears them apart. I saw her on an episode of AEW, and it was during that time when there was no entertainment to be had. We were on lockdown, and the empathy and the sympathy I had in watching her do her profession made me an instant fan. And I hope after this you are a fan of her too. It's hard being the Chicago sweetheart. It's hard being Missa Kate. Hi.
Hello. What an intro.
But I mean every word of it. And like I said, like I always tell everybody, this is the first time I talk to anybody that comes on here. I've been looking forward to this since our first behind the scenes, breaking the fourth wall. I subscribe to your OnlyFans just to get a chance to reach out to you to get this hour of time. I just wanted to talk to you. I thought you were going up against Emi Sakura, especially at a time when we had no real crowds or anything. You came in there and she put a beating on you, but in your match, and look, let's just be, we know what it is. It's scripted. I get that, but you took those bumps with such empathy. I don't look. We don't jobbers. We don't. You don't root for them, but I rooted for you. I was like, well, could she win? Well, maybe she could. You did a pump kick on her. You kicked her in the side. I was like, whoa. But I'm getting too far ahead. What got you into professional wrestling? Of all things, what got you into pro wrestling?
Yeah, Emi's great. So pretty much when I was younger, I don't know, I've always been a tomboy. Like I grew up, I'm an only child, but I had 2 older guy cousins that I would hang out with, and then I just was thrown into sports because my mom's like, you have too much energy, like I need to throw you into something. So like, yeah, I've always been like a jock and a tomboy and stuff growing up, and I never really felt like I related to a lot of other girls, not in like a disrespectful way, but just like I was the only one that I knew that was like, oh, I like skateboard, soccer, basketball, all this stuff. So when I saw Lita, so I always say I have 2 first matches that I saw, John Cena and Lita. So John Cena was technically the first ever match that I saw when I was younger, and it was his debut match in Chicago against Kurt Angle.
So we were born from ruthless,
which probably makes you understand a lot more of my style now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I saw him, but at the time, like my grandfather was sitting next to me and he was blind, so he didn't know what was going on. He just heard. And he's from Europe, so he had a thick accent. I can't mock it. So he's just like, what are you watching? What are you doing? Like, no, you gotta turn that off. You're gonna die. You're gonna get a hole in your stomach and die. And I was young, so I didn't want to die. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna watch this anymore. Later on, I found out he meant like I'm gonna get like a what do you call it? Like what is it called when you have a lot of stress?
Heart attack.
Well, yeah, that too. But like an ulcer. There you go. An ulcer he was talking about. Again, I'm like a 5-year-old kid. I'm like, I don't know what the fucking ulcer is, and you just told me I'm gonna die from watching something, so I'm not gonna watch it. But that's because again, we watched the Gorgeous George days and like where they were putting money on and they were throwing shit at the TV and stuff like that. So that's what he was trying to get me to avoid. Didn't work. So, but I did stop watching for like a little bit after that as a child. Obviously, I'm like, don't want to die. Yeah. Finally, of all places, I was sitting now at my grandma's Sunday school. She worked at a church, and over the weekends, like I would go with her to like help out whatever she needed. And the typical Sunday routine would be I'd go, there's a McDonald's like across the street, so I get my little hotcakes and sausage, and then I'd go and chill out in the Sunday school room until like needed me for something. And so it had basic cable in there. Well, I'm flipping through, and the Spanish channel comes on, and it's Raw in Espanol.
All right.
Now I'm watching, and I see Lita. This is my first introduction to Lita. The match that I saw, so my first match, was she was managing. She didn't actually have a match. It was the Edge versus Matt Hardy match. Loser had to leave Raw. Yeah, the winner. It was the ladder match.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah.
And I knew nothing, obviously. But like at this point, I knew nothing on the backstory about. Yeah, I was just like, I saw her, and she was like getting in there with the guys, and just it reminded me of me, like, oh, I play sports with the guys and stuff like that. So when I saw her, I was like, oh, she's cool as hell. I want to be like her. So I just felt, again, it was like that relation. Like she didn't. You could tell there's something different about her. She was a girl, obviously. She was gorgeous. But I'm like, yeah, you could tell she was like rough around the edges, and I'm like, oh, that's me. I was never like a picket fence kind of person. So, long short story.
Take your time. You're good. I love picking your brain because like the more you're telling, the more it explains your style and who you are, and it makes me have more questions. So yeah, keep going.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Once I saw them, it was kind of like a mixture of like, and then I started watching. Again, because I didn't have cable, so now every Sunday, it was Saturday mornings, I believe. I did the same thing Saturday and Sundays, but either way, I believe it was Saturday mornings, and so during the week, I found out when SmackDown was, so I started watching SmackDown, and then every Saturday morning, I'm watching Raw in Espanol. You would think that I would know Spanish now, but I don't. I understand it, I can't really speak it.
I'm Hispanic, so I get you, yeah.
But, yeah, so I'm like, and then I got more into John Cena, and YouTube became a thing. So now I'm able to research, and now I know who Thugonomics is, Dr. Thugonomics. And I was like, all right, I'm a little in love right now. So, so yeah. So, oh, for sure. Dude, I no joke. I remember my first WWE event I went to. This is like when they started making him into like, Superman Cena.
Yeah.
So this was like, I had the ticket stub, and I think I posted it on something, but Allstate Arena, I want to say it was like around 2008 or something like that. So he wasn't Thugonomics anymore. But I brought a sign that said Chicago Chain Gang, and I like printed, that
is adorable.
And I like printed out all these things, and I held it up, and they never put me on the Titantron because they weren't doing Chain Gang anymore. I was like, oh, so sad.
So that blows my mind because you are the Chicago sweetheart. So we're going to bounce around a little bit. What happened when CM Punk showed up?
CM Punk, so, yeah, again, Chicago. So I'm like, hometown hero, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was really cool seeing him because, again, he's another one that's like rough around the edges.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, marches the beat of his own drum.
Rebel all day long.
Huh?
He's a rebel all day long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Rebel without a cause. So, right?
Yep.
But yeah, like him, I'm like, yeah, I always gravitate like him, Jeff Hardy, like a Team Extreme fan. So I'm like, anybody who's kind of like not, with the exception of John Cena, he's the only like cookie cutter, but even that, I don't really consider him cookie cutter.
Like when he transitioned after that whole Vanilla Ice promo, and he transitioned into the Doctor of Thugonomics, he wasn't like everybody else, and everybody joked with him, and he had the goofy shoes that looked like Adidas, which I was going to ask you about that later too. He was different. Like, were like that? I could see them a little older now, because I always figured that I figured you and I were in the same age bracket. We are. Raven for me in ECW and WCW. Raven, like, he spoke to my soul. That Nirvana feeling, and just him being alt and different, and not he's not your. When I was a kid, I didn't like the good guys. It was weird. I liked Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake, for me, like his promos, he terrified me as a kid, which made me want to watch more. Yeah. Never was a big Hulk Hogan guy. Yeah, I wasn't. I love the Macho Man, but I was never a big Hulk Hogan guy. Oh yeah, brother. I just wasn't. I wasn't that guy.
The Macho Man's not cookie cutter either.
No, he was like, but
he was unique in himself.
But he was the king of transitioning. Like, if you look at the Macho Man that wrestled Ricky Steamboat compared to What Up, Mach, and big like that, completely different characters.
Yep.
Where in transitioning to that, I saw you in gray and white tights, and you had the Adidas on, and you thought, where did that come from?
So pretty much, like when I started wrestling, I kind of got thrown in pretty quick. Like I didn't think I was ready, but my trainer at the time was like, "No, you're fine. Like you got it." I was like, "Oh, thanks."
Good.
Technically, I hid from my first match. I was like, I'm on vacation that weekend. So then my debut date ended up being May 19th, which I'm like, oh, poetry, I love it. Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly, right?
I don't. Well, I see evil. Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't know, like, as far as like character, like stuff, what I wanted to do. Like, I had ideas, but I was like, um, they were like, obviously, by the time I started actually wrestling, these were all taken up. Because again, this is like stuff that I've been thinking about since I started watching wrestling.
Yeah.
So given that time I started when I was 21, I think. I started later than what I wanted. But yeah, so by the time I started, I was like, oh, I have no idea for the character. And I was like, I was already like not I was in my head about, okay, like can you just like not die or kill anybody in the match and like have it be okay and like get through it. So character wasn't on my forefront of my mind, but just for by default, I was like, oh, like I like Vans and like I skated with my cousin, so I was like, oh, I'll be like a skater chick. So that's where the checkers came from.
Okay.
But then everybody thought that was like a Bob Holly thing, and I was like, no. People thought I was doing some NASCAR shit.
You don't want to fucking bite on Bob Holly shit. No, Bob, no.
But now fast forwarding to the gear that you saw, I've always liked, again, like I gravitate towards weird and unusual things. So I like weird and unusual fabrics. So when I saw the newspaper, I was like, I don't think anybody has gear like this. So I've literally sat and designed each and every one of them. I haven't physically made, but I sat and designed, drew out like every set of gear I've ever made or wore.
That makes so much sense now.
Yeah, very picky.
Well, no, but I get it, and it works. So before I jump in, I have to stop because I'll forget.
Okay.
You always wear Adidas. Like I always see you in some sort of like Adidas, what have you.
Yep.
Sky always wears some sort of Chuck. Is that a thing y'all coordinated or something like that? Because like I thought that was like I was essay and I wore Dickies and Adidas and Dickies and Chuck. So like back when I was younger, I was like, okay, kind of feeling this. What was that about?
I've always liked high tops and like skater shoes and stuff like that. And I played soccer, so like the Vans, like I started wrestling in, but those like kill your feet. So I don't know how girls can wrestle in them. Like God bless. They were killing my feet, my ankles. But then, yeah, I was trying to avoid Jordans because all the girls were wearing Jordans.
And you
that was like a new thing. Exactly. And well, and I'm poor, so so there's that. But yeah, so then finally like Adidas started coming out with some cool ass high tops. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I can get these and wear these. And I'm like, they're comfy as hell. I have a pair right now, the pair that you saw, the black and white pair.
Yeah.
They're like falling apart. And I'm like, unless they like completely tear, I don't think I'm gonna get rid of them. But they're so comfy, even falling apart. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where it comes from. And then it's cool now Adidas comes out with all these different high tops, so now it's giving me gear ideas. I'm like, oh, what fabric can I match with those colors? Like I'm literally matching my gear to match the shoes now. So I have like an additional 5 pair of shoes that I have just waiting for gear to be matched with them. So stay tuned.
I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of gear, you weren't so sweet in your transition. When I first saw you in AEW, you're just this like, oh my god, you were like the perfect white meat baby face, just adorable. You want to root for this girl. I watched what Nyla did to you. I was like, oh man, that is so fucking sad. Like I get it. It's performance. Like, yeah, but I'm like, I get it. You're doing a performance, and I get it. I you're better than me. I took a bump in a boxing ring as a ow. Yeah, the first time fucking hurt like hell. I was like, yeah, I'm good. You know, I've done other stuff that's fine, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't do what you do. I can admit that because what you do is amazing. But watching you with Nyla, I was like, you still empathy. And then you went away for a little bit, and I didn't see you on AEW, and I looked you up and this and that. But then you started wearing multicolored like spray paint stuff on your pants and this design, and that gum that you're known for chewing was going in people's hands. and you had a little bit of a match with a Ruby Soho, and you weren't the Chicago sweetheart anymore. What was up with that transition? Oh, by the way, I bought the shirt. I should have worn it. It's in storage, but I love that new design with you with the bubble gum. Fucking awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That's very wicked. But what happened? Why no sweetheart anymore? Why this villainous hammer pants wearing? I'm gonna spit gum in people's hands.
I love that you said wicked. So again, just a thing of like Lita's right. Lita's my girl. What she wear? She'll wear baggy pants.
Yes.
I was like, cool. I wanted to see if I can modernize that. And thank you. And didn't realize that in that transition how hot sweatpants are to wrestle.
Okay.
I didn't think that far ahead. I was just like, oh, this will look cool. But that mixed with like a lot of people kept thinking like I was a hip hop dancer and all this other stuff, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm going for. So I definitely went back to the drawing board and have the gear I do now. But just going back to the sweatpants, it was just something that like I don't know. I got to a point where I don't know. I kind of will say like gain some confidence, or like I always joke around and say like, oh, I had an unfortunate concussion at the end of last year going into this year. So I make the joke of like, oh, I hit my head and it turned me straight. So which it probably did, honestly. But that was like again, poetry. Like everything happened how it was supposed to. Like I had to be forced to be gone for a little bit. So because I was forced to be gone, I was like, cool, now I can make this transition that I've been like dying to make. And it's just kind of been something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and it's been like eating me alive. And my trainer Bryce Benjamin was saying, he's like, stop, he's like, just pull the trigger, stop waiting. And so like finally when I came back, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. Because again, in my head, right, I grew up with story. I'm like, no, I want there to be like a storyline. So I was like, well, technically this is like a storyline, right? It's just like I guess like a self storyline as opposed to like active rivalry. Yeah. So, when I came back, I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm finally at the point mentally where I'm like, okay, I like doing this. I'm okay at it. I can get through matches now. Like I'm not panicking and crying after every match. You're like, oh, that's horrible. So I'm like, I could actually move forward and do some shit. And that's kind of where all that came from, was just kind of like, all right, well, this is me. Like I wear sweatpants all the time. Like I walk around the house in a freaking sports bra and sweatpants daily. So I was like, why not make that my gear? So that's how that happened. But yeah, and then just transitioning to the gear I have now, saying
and the gear you have now. Okay, so you talked about John, and I'm glad. One, I love that you're still a fan. Like you're not jaded, and I love talking to you now because you're gonna blow up. Like I'm gonna be honest with you. Like you're going to blow up. You're going to be a big fucking deal. I don't know why you haven't been picked up by. I think you've wrestled for the NWA, but you've not been picked up by fucking AEW or the fucking E. I don't get it, because like they're missing fucking out. And I'm not, again, I think I said this off before we started recording. And I think Sky Blue's fantastic. But for me, as a fan, your in-ring work, I get invested. Y'all are both very lovely, attractive people, but beyond that, like your work for me makes me go, I need to watch more. I want to see this storyline. And the fact you said that, it makes me feel something, because you did it. You did exactly what made you fall in love with wrestling. You started out as that prototype John Cena character with his blue and white trunks and this and that, and then you turned heel and you started rocking a little hip hop swagger to your gear.
Yep.
And now you've come out the other end with this Chicago-based gear that just pops, and it is the perfect evolution of those loud pants and your original gear. Like this is perfect. I think it's fantastic personally. I mean, for those who haven't kept up or watched you, I went to your YouTube channel just to learn more about you. You got to do more vlog thingies. you're naturally gifted, like on a camera. I think people would find you interesting. Maybe I'm just biased because I think you're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I do want to know though, you're not a regular catch as catch can wrestler, girl. You throw some kicks in there and some like Muay Thai shit, and I'm like, oh, whoa. What made you change? What made you your style?
So I think just overall, like, thank you for all the compliments, by the way.
True. Just think you're fantastic.
Thank you. I think honestly, just overall my background. like I said, I played soccer for 20 years, so I'm like, I do like,
Couldn't tell.
Yep. I did kickboxing for like over a year or something like that. And that was again for me in my head. I'm like, oh, I got to get in some kind of wrestling shape. And my trainer, who was actually, he's military as well. So he would like him and I would stay after class sometimes. So like come up with some ideas for wrestling. So it was a really fun time. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but oh well. It'll be fine. But yeah, so him and I, like, he would keep trying to get me to, because for kickboxing, just like karate and all that stuff, to test to get like a belt and stuff. And they kept trying to get me to compete. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm like, not myself. I mean, like, on a bucket list, 100% one day would I want to? Yeah. But I'm like, my goal right now, I'm like, I'm cool not getting hit in the face, like, for real. And someone, like, literally trying to murder me.
Okay.
Yeah. One day, but I'm like, right now is not that day. But yeah, so I did like kickboxing, and I guess when I first started training wrestling wise, like I had a couple like close guys be like, hey, like you have a wide sports variety of like background and all this other stuff, and you did kickboxing, so what kind of kicks do you? So I started showing, I'm like, oh, this is what you learn, blah blah blah, stuff like that. And one of the guys, his name's Matt, pulled up Malachi Black, or now that is his name in AEW,
Yeah.
correct?
Tommy
Okay.
End.
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah,
I'm the worst. I'm like, too many name changes.
Okay, it was Tommy End on the Indies. Then it became Aleister Black in the E, and now it's Malachi. So yeah, you're good.
So he pulled up.
Holy shit, you do some fucking Malachi Black stock shit. Okay, I'm all about that life. All right.
Yeah, so he pulled up some of his stuff, and like, which was funny because I was like, oh, like I didn't know much about him at the time when I started, because I don't know why, but when I started wrestling, I was just so into
your shit.
Well, yeah, into like training, and like at the time I was like going to school and working and stuff. So watching wrestling wasn't really a thing for me at the time. The irony. And so when he pulled him up and he showed me his finish, I was like, oh shit, that's like a hook kick. I could do that. And so that became my finish. But yeah, I'm just like, there's like a couple other things too that I used to do that I might bring back now that I'm more confident, like that I tried back then where I was like, oh, this doesn't work. So yeah, I'm like thinking of ideas now as we're talking. Sorry. But
I love it. Like, if the spark happens here, you can look back. It's gonna be like, not that we have a giant YouTube channel, but come back, watch this shit. Yeah. But I will say this. I would have never believed that you didn't have confidence. You fucking, like, when you come out there, it's your show. I watched a show you won recently. I can't remember who you're wrestling, but you use some chicanery. Yeah, you put your foot on the ropes. You put gum in her hand like you do everybody else. But it was your show. Like you was like, this is my show. I'm doing this, whatever. You're gonna do what I want you to do. But I love seeing behind that, to see that you are still a fan. You do have fear. You do question yourself. But from an onlooker, we've never met. We've never had a conversation. Would have never believed it. I thought you've been wrestling for years, just from the Emmy Sakura match, like the bumps you took and everything else. Like for me, and I can only speak for me and those I've talked to, you got it. Stop being afraid. You got it. Like, you're good. Like,
thank you.
I don't know why they haven't signed you yet. That's killing me inside. That question.
Thank you.
Well, my thing is, I've always felt like maybe you didn't want to get signed yet or something like that, because you're like building like a portfolio, or you wanted to weigh your options. I don't know what it is, but like, I don't know. You could be in NXT killing it right now with everything you're doing. What I've seen, right? And I love wrestling. That's my biggest thing. But again, at the end of the day, I know I'm a mark. And when I find somebody I like, I'm on that shit. I love Bray Wyatt. Like, that's my guy. Fucking this Uncle Howdy shit. People are kind of smoking with it. I'm like, that's gonna be good. All right, just let him rock his shit. That's how I feel about you.
He's just seasoning right now.
What do you want? Like, if you could be signed right now, where would you go?
Oh, that's hard. It's so hard. I'm like, no joke, like, I think at the end of the day, like, I grew up watching WWE, so I mean, I have to say that's a dream to be there one day. Obviously, because I'm like, John Cena was there, Lita was there. But I'm like, there's so many different options for wrestling I'm like, I want to definitely experience going to the UK. I want to go to Japan.
Yes.
I want to go to Mexico and hopefully not be murdered. I'm just kidding. No, but I want to go to Mexico, and I'm like, I haven't wrestled like, there's a lot of places where I'm like, no, I still want to gain experience, and I'm like, I appreciate everything that you're saying. Like, it's so sweet. And I'm like, yeah, there's times I'm like, oh, I just want to be signed somewhere. I want to get going and, stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I got to take a step back. And again, I'm fortunate of the people that I have good people surrounding me that are reminding me like, hey, man, like there's a reason why yet. Like you keep saying you want to do all these things, but guess what? If you're held down over here, you can't do all these things that you want to do. And plus, maybe I'm meant to learn and even evolve my style going to those other places before I can get to where I'm supposed to be for my forever. So I'm like, I keep trying to look at it like that. And once I started doing that, I actually started to relax and have more fun. And I think that's, again, where more confidence came in. And I'm just kind of like, all right, like, you're having fun. This is what you wanted to do. Like, fucking enjoy it. Like, this is what you set out to do and you're doing it.
I would love to see you in Japan. I'd love to see you in Stardom. Just do some stuff there, man. Like, just, I don't know, like, you're different. And like I said, you're not your I mean, again, I said it. You're attractive enough to have OnlyFans. You're not like, bleh. And I mean, one.
I appreciate that.
but you can fucking work. Like you do fucking. Like I'm waiting for you to go back to AEW to see what you can do now. I'm waiting because, like I said, we saw you in your newspaper gear, then we saw you spitting gum in people's faces, shit like that. Now I want to see this new Chicago sweetheart fucking new gear of Evolution. Mm-hmm. Let's break it down. In WWE, who would be your dream match? I know Lita would have been one, clearly, but right now in the current form, NXT, who would have been your a match you would want to have?
I've never had a match with Roxy.
Oh.
So she was somebody who escaped me. But like, yeah, she's somebody that I've only ever heard good things about, like people have matches with her and stuff like that. And her and I actually trained together before quarantine, when there's like Shimmer and Rise in Chicago, and she was in for that weekend and she had some time, so she actually came to one of the training classes. So her and I like locked up and did like I don't know, I think there's a video somewhere. But yeah, we did like a little spot and stuff like that, and that was fun, and she was cool meeting her there. So I'm like, yeah, we never got to actually like tussle. But other than her, I'm like, I don't know, there's oh my god, I can't think of her name right now, and I love her to death. But that's because I know her real name and I don't want to put her on blast. The cowgirl. It's the
Mickey?
No, not Mickey. Well, Mickey James, yeah, but not I'm trying to think NXT. It's her and the two cowboy dudes.
I know who you're talking about. Okay, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of the name right now. I do the same thing. I have it right here. Zoe? No, what the fuck is it?
I can't remember her ring name. Anyway, I don't want to put her real shit on blast. So, but yeah, so I mean, like her, like I met her on the Indies when she was Tesha, and so I'm like, she got away from me, and I was like, oh, I just want to have a match with her, and her and I clicked. But yeah, I mean, like NXT right now, there's like a decent amount of girls that I'm like, okay, like we could have some fun, we could figure some stuff out. And I feel like now it could be just me, but NXT is trying to get more character based.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they have their athletes in there, but I feel like they're trying to find a good happy mix where I'm like, you need a goofball. But I'm a character.
A goofball who could play a great heel and an awesome fucking babyface. Fire. What was her name? She just got through. Let's just talk about how great Mandy Rose has been. I never thought that was going to I'm not being a dick, but I didn't see that going as well as it. He's killing it. But she just had a match at Halloween Havoc with something fire. What the hell is her name? I get nervous.
Kelly.
I know, but you know what I'm talking about. She had her face painted for that match. I would love you two tangle like.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, that would have been okay. Main roster right now. I would love to see you and Bailey just mix it up. I think that would have just
yep.
Or Nikki Cross. Oh, that would just be
Oh, Nikki Cross, that'd be insane.
Not Nikki ASH. I'm sorry, like I'm not a fan,
oh,
but
yeah,
Nikki.
No. Yeah, agreed. I'm like, I want to get in.
I'm talking about. I'll play with you, Becky. That Nikki.
That would be fun. We could definitely find some fun shit. I'm like her. I'm a Alexa Bliss.
Yes.
I want her to be a little bad girl again.
Yes.
The
goddess.
Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair. I want Sasha to come back so I can wrestle her. I want to wrestle Becky.
I hope she does. But I could see her going to AEW too. Like she could kill it there.
Yeah.
I would love. Okay, I know she's Emma. I know Tennille Dash was great. I wish she would have caught something with her. I would love to see you in Impact. Oh my God, there's so many matchups there in Impact. Like,
yep.
You and Jessica Havoc. I think that would play you against a monster. Oh, that would be.
I'm just running from her the whole match, just like yeah.
Okay, so I've always been a fan of someone who makes me feel for them, right? Dolph Ziggler is a perfect example, right? When he hit the ground, you're like, okay, are you all right, bro? Like much like Shawn did in the early 90s. Like he was one of the best workers, if not the best worker in his era, because you felt for him. You wanted him to win. For me, you have a lot of that. Like there's sympathy in your movement. And again, like I want to see you in matchups, and that says something. I think that ultimately, Dalton Castle, right? When you see Dalton Castle, you find him interesting, boys. And he goes out there, he breaks hearts, but you want him to win, even if he was a heel. But when he was a heel, you want to see him win because he's so flamboyant. But you feel for him. You do your best work is in that ring, and you take a bump. My first reaction was, oh, who's this? And I'm watching, and oh, shit. Is she all right? And I'm sitting here, and I'm looking at my little screen. I'm like, okay, come on, Missa. Come on, get your ass up. No, you can do this. We will. I don't want you to, get up. And I was thrown back to being a kid again and watching again. Like the first match I watched with my dad when I just clicked on wrestling was the Boiler Room Brawl.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And I watched Paul Bearer betray The Undertaker, and I felt that. So I go back to that feeling, and I'm an empath, so I feel for you when you're wrestling, and I'm like, I don't want you to lose. So watching you in AEW, I want you to get that first win. I want you to like go over on somebody and then go, all right, just signed is all Missa Kate, All Elite. I want that. I want to be able to be one of those people that says, I knew she was great before y'all did. That's my chick right there. Watch her. I want to be like that guy goes. Like when Lita came out years ago with S.A. Rios, right? You knew that she was going to be something, right? I get that. Like,
Thank you.
I'm a mark. I admit that. I admit because I love wrestling, and I don't care if it's not going to be the days of like Steve Austin and the Attitude Era, right? I love what wrestling's done. It's probably a bad idea now, but I have a tattoo of Vince McMahon on the back of my right calf with devil horns because Vince McMahon, what he did, he made something that both you, it touched, like you're here and his creation touched you. Did it change your life enough that you wanted to make a career out of it? And what you do inspires people like me to want to talk to you and pick your brain and learn why you do this crazy career that you do. And this is about you. I shouldn't be talking so fucking much, and I get that, but I get to talk.
Thank you.
I get to talk to someone who I think is just the bee's knees. I think you're just fucking. I want to see more of you, and I love that you. I really wish you would do more vlog thingies because you give people that background that. I get kayfabe is dead. That's fine. But that's not what I'm talking about. We get to see you as a human being. And I feel like someday somebody's going to go back and look at those and be like, that's where she got that from. That one day they'll come back and look at this and go, oh, she wasn't trying to be like MC Hammer. She was trying to be like Linda. Okay, I got it. Newspaper. Okay. She wore the Adidas because they were comfortable. It wasn't a shtick. Okay. And I want that. I want people to see behind you're more than just this person that they looked on. There's more to what makes you. Like you're fucking, you're the shit. Like
you're so
like I said, I know she's your friend. I'm not a dig at her. I think she's fantastic in what she's doing. I got to see her live when they came out to Dallas, and Sky is something else. Whenever I watch her wrestle, she's got empathy too. And people like her, and she's fantastic. There's not anything bad I can say. But if I had to watch you two, and I watched you two wrestle, you're the one I want to win. I don't care if you're a bad guy. I don't care if you're a tweener. I don't care. I want Missa Kate to go over because from the first time I saw you, for me, you get it. You get why I'm a fan.
Yeah.
You're just like my friends from back in the day. You're like when I watched Raven and they were outcasts and misfits. You're that misfit that I think that would get over for me.
Thank you.
Again, I'm rambling on, but continue whatever you want to go with.
No, I appreciate that. No, but it's funny. Going back to Raven, like I forgot to mention earlier, my first encounter with him was actually at Impact, like watching Impact.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, so I'll give you a little scoop here. When I was first at NWA, and the first match, because I was a replacement for Lady Frost, because unfortunately she got sick.
Yeah.
So my name got thrown in the hat, and now I'm there. So pretty much the first match that I had was like a 4-way tag, and I tagged with Natalia Markova, who obviously like we weren't a tag team, like you know whatever. And I remember, like she did her little entrance, and she's very like not flamboyant, but she's very sexy and like I'm Russian and all, all that stuff.
I will crush you.
Yeah, I will crush you and be sexy. So she pretty much walked out there, and that's how she went. And then you have me, who's wearing a fucking hat and a hoodie coming behind her. I was like, what the hell is this? I started mocking her. So, mocked her walk or whatever. And I remember when I came back from the match later on, Raven was actually there at that pay-per-view.
I'm jealous.
And he came up to me. And he was like, hey, he was like, that was awesome. He was like, so much charisma. He's like, you had, like, pretty much I, like, won him over a little bit. And, like, as he's talking to me, I'm like, oh, little did you know I used to have, like, a big crush on you, but that's okay. Thank you. So it was just cool because I was like, it was like a weird full circle. But yeah, so I'm like just going back to, that's a lot of, if you look at people that I'm fans of, I'm like, they are the misfits. Like John Cena, outside looks like cookie cutter, but I'm like on the inside, he is a fucking dork, and I love it. And I'm like, that's I think what a lot of people that are misfits, that's what we are. We're all a bunch of dorks.
Yeah,
but
we're wrestling fans.
Yeah, exactly. But we accept it because you know what? Fuck it. Why not? Because life's too short, man. So pretty much, so I'm like, that's why it was cool when you said Raven. I was like, oh yeah, he was one of mine too that I liked.
I don't know if I've seen that match, but I got to go back and find it. But the fact that you would go out and mock her on the way out, that is you. That is you. And I think that's what I'm talking about. Like, see, clearly I'm not crazy because Raven saw it. Scott fucking Levy, fucking Raven, saw that shit and was able to tell you, that was badass. Because you are. And if he's telling you, that's got to say something, right? Yeah,
it definitely helps. It makes me, like, my brain be like, okay, you're in the right direction, kid. Like, and that's something, like, it's funny, the same phrase keeps being used, like, when I'm talking to certain people, and they're like, just keep being you, kid. Just keep doing it, kid. And I'm just like, all right. I'm like, I need to get that, like, tattooed on my fucking arm so I don't forget. But I'm just like, and again, when you get in this wrestling bubble, it's hard to like think outside of it. So it's like, you get so invested, and then you're doing trips, and then you're like podcasts, and you're just constantly in it, whatever's sucking you in. Again, it's wrestling. I love it, so I'm not mad at it. But sometimes it can cause you to doubt yourself because now you're not looking from an outside perspective. You're only like in here all the time. And so I say I'm fortunate with the family and friends that I have because they'll pretty much talk to me and be like, Missa, like, you know you're just on a pay-per-view. You know you're going to be on another pay-per-view, right? Like, I'm just like, oh, yeah. Like, I'll forget because I'm just so into, like, I don't know. When I step back and look, I'm like, holy shit, I'm actually, like, doing what I always wanted to do. But again, when you're in it, you don't see it. You're just like, okay, how can I better myself? Okay, that was weird. Don't do that again. So you're constantly just like trying to get better and own your craft.
You're kind of a big deal. Like, I feel like you have your home smells of rich mahogany, and you have many leather-bound books, and like, but like I said, you got it. And I mean, granted, I'm happy that you're humble, and you're. I was terrified because like you should never meet people you like. It's always one of my fears, right? I've interviewed a couple of TikTok folks that I think are fantastic. I don't know if you're into TikTok at all, but this woman named Skull, Sylvia Skull, she's fantastic. And she's everything I was hoping she was. And I'm so grateful that the people that I've gotten to talk to, including you, are just so fucking humble and chill. And you're, like I said, you are the Chicago sweetheart. And I wondered why you got that name, and kind of figured like now I'm getting it. So I'll have you just tell me though, where did the name the Chicago sweetheart come from? Because I can't believe you couldn't be chick magnet Missa. So
right,
that's the best thing, right?
It's funny that you said that, because I actually had somebody say like, oh, just because of that, they're like, oh, you're like the girl like CM Punk, like not literally. I don't think about myself like that, but they're just saying like as far as like rough around the edges and like just I don't know, parallels, I guess. But
that is very true though. Like you have a lot. If he was a chick, there's some comparability there. You both have a very high impact style. You both use a lot of kicks and things in your stuff. You're both very likable as people. I would like any interactions I've seen with him. I know some people think he's a dick, whatever. That's not my place to judge, but he seems like a nice fucking guy. You are just bubbly and like I don't ever see you as a fucking heel again. So we're fucked. You ruined it from now.
Yeah, I gotta start being meaner on interviews. This is why I can't do podcasts anymore.
Don't MJF this shit. Don't fucking go that way.
It's hard, man. Yeah.
And I cut you off. I'm sorry. You're
fine.
Chicago sweetheart. How did that come about?
So I remember like wrestling nerd. So I'm like trying to think of personas and stuff like that. So I remember one day I had like a whole list of like a bunch of crap, just like, oh, monikers. And so by the time my debut came, this was like when I first started training. And once I started training, my head was just like, all right, train, get better. So I put the character stuff to the side because I was like, oh, I'm not there yet. Pause. So the day of my debut, they're like, oh, so what's your moniker? And I was like, what? So they're like, yeah, like, what do you want to be called? And I'm just kind of like, I'm like thinking over the list that I wrote like a year ago in my head. Well, less than a year ago in my head. I was like, Chicago sweetheart. And they're like, okay, cool. And then they just went with it. And at the time, the place that I debuted at was Chicago Style Wrestling. So it went with company I debuted, the place that I debuted, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm actually from Chicago. I'm not one of these bitches that lie that are from the fucking suburbs.
Fuck yes.
But yeah, so Chicago public school, man. Started drinking in 8th grade. It's real shit. Right. So but yeah, so that's just kind of where it came from, like a laundry list, and then just one day was like, hey, who are you? And I was kind of like, here you go. And it's cool because I'm like thinking back, and I'm the worst. I like lose all these notes that I'll write because I'm like, I'll just have to get them out of my head half the time.
Same.
Yeah, and so now I'm like, I can remember some that I think I was told to start using start using and stuff like that. So there's like a bunch I have in my head where, like, when I was doing the sweatpants thing, I had shit show on the side.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
So I was like, this is like, welcome to my shit show. So Chicago sweetheart, welcome to my shit show. So stuff like that. And I'm like, there's a lot of ideas in here, but I'm like, it just has to be properly placed and storyline and timing and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not a great story, but yeah.
but you have a source, right? Like, and I love that. I would suggest get it because I used to carry a dream book basically when I would sleep, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, I'd write something down. But
I do that.
Yeah, it reminds you and shit like that. I'm not one of those. I can't put string on my finger. I can't lose notes on my phone. I'll forget that shit. Like I could draw and shit like that, so I have to sketch shit down real quick because if I have an idea, I need to have that because my ADD fucking mom. Bird.
Yeah. Squirrel. So, that's me and my grandma. We'll be driving in the car.
And which she has been on your vlog. She has been on your vlog thingies. I saw that.
Yeah, my granny.
But like I said, before I forget, the gum. Where did that start?
So I always chewed gum. That was always a thing. And like I remember my aunt when I was younger, I used to chew my food and chew my gum like a cow, and it drove her nuts. Yeah. So she was like, "Yeah, it's obnoxious." So I was like, "Oh, what better time to bring it into being a heel and stuff like I would always blow bubbles, stuff like that." So again, it's like stuff that I've either always done or done as a kid or like as a teenager that's now resurfacing. So yeah, and it's also I found out it's like good with anxiety and when you're nervous and like I had like a digestive thing also at the beginning of this year, and they said that when you chew gum, it does something. It makes your brain and your nervous system think that you're actually eating, but you're not digesting anything. But because of that, you're chewing, so now your body does think you're digesting. Like it's a whole thing. So it was helping with that. Yeah. So I'm like, there's like the funny story, and then there's like the medical story, and then there's like the heal part of it. But yeah, I'm just here to burst your bubble.
That's perfect. That is it. Missa Kate, I'm just here to burst your bubble. I love that. So, if I could be selfish, my hope is that you go to AEW because I think and I think they'll suit you. And I think your first match should be against, like, your first official match should be against Sky, and I think you should go over because y'all have a chemistry in the ring that's just y'all are very good together. And you watch your vlog things and see y'all together, y'all are just really good. Like I said, I don't want to feel like I've ever knocked her because I think she's fantastic. She's lovely in the ring, in person. Seeing her there, she's awesome. She has a way with the crowd. But watching y'all together is very. She can play that baby meat, fucking baby face all day long, and you can play that heel. But I want you to get over.
Yep. Thank you.
So,
I will see there is the 23rd of this month of November, my birthday, by the way. AEW will be in town, and I'm like hoping that maybe people put it into the universe as you're doing, that her and I could maybe have a little match on Rampage. Win, lose, or draw. I don't really. It doesn't matter to me. I think her and I, like how you said, her and I have always had chemistry since day one. The first match her and I actually had, we had to put together like very quickly because ironically I was driving from a Dustin Rhodes seminar. Poetry, right? So yeah, so we had to put the match together really quickly and we just kind of flowed, and ever since, like, it's just kind of like a thing of like, hey, like anytime we have a match, it's funny if you ever hear us call, we don't even say words. There's like the shit and the yeah, fuck you, and then fuck me, and then this shit, and then yeah. So it's just like one of those things it's rare to come across in wrestling that you have somebody that is like you just have full chemistry with. So I'm like, yeah, her and I just have that weird chemistry.
It's funny you say that because immediately when you said Dustin Rhodes, I was thinking about a quote, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, going back. The American Dream, Daddy, Dusty Rhodes. Mm-hmm. He once said when him and Ric Flair wrestled, it was magic when we touched. And when I watch you two, it's the same. Like the way you said, y'all don't even have to talk. Like I feel like you would have been one of Dusty's. Like again, I never met Dusty, this and that, but to see you the way you are, I think you would have been one of his. I could just see it in my head. Missa, you got to come on, baby. You have to come on, baby. We have to. You up, baby. I feel like he would have loved you. And my just. I think
that means a lot.
I think y'all are you're gonna be amazing one day. So I have to ask you what I ask a lot of people. Missa Kate, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oof. I see myself I'm still doing this. As of right now, I guess this is where my brain is. I'm like, WWE is the most global company wrestling wise. I'm like, if that changes and it's AEW, regardless, 10 years down the road, I just want to be a part of the largest wrestling franchise because I want to be able to tell as many stories globally and just kind of be what the people that I was fans of. I want to be that for people. And I want to be able to say, like, hey, I did everything that I was set out to do. I literally feel like, maybe not everything, because 10 years is still kind of short. I want to have a family one day. But I'm like, yeah, at that point, I want to be able to say, like, hey, I went to Japan, I went to the UK, I've made lifelong friends, which I'm already doing now, so I can only imagine the next 10 years, and I don't know, a lot. I will say Women's Wrestling Army, I don't know if you're familiar, but Maria Kanellis, she's putting on a hell of a show, her and Bobby from Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to be another one in 10 years we're still going to be talking about. And I hope to be still part of it.
She's a very underrated mind. She's brilliant. You know, I feel like she kind of gets pigeonholed into that old Maria from WWE. That hi Maria. No, she like watching her in the Kingdom. There's more to that woman than meets the eye.
Which people don't realize how smart you need to be to play a dumbass.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yes, because I do it constantly. Because a lot of people, I don't like people, and it sucks because like the profession I chose, I'm constantly reminded that the bar can always be set lower with humans. It's very depressing. But I see a lot of the old Mickey James and Trish Stratus in you. Like I see the old Mickey James, whatever. I see a lot of Lita herself in you. I see so much from my fandom. I think you have a point though. Like you're not meant to be anywhere right now because you're going to pick up so much knowledge what you're doing. I think you're going to fucking just learn so much shit. And when the time comes, and it will, you're going to fucking kill it. And they're going to be like, what the fuck were we missing? I can see you in Impact. I can see you in AEW. I can see you in the E. I can see you in Japan doing fucking strong style. I see you leaning more to the European strong style. I see you being more of a, well, using a fucking blade. But just that hidden blade is a dangerous move. But
and 10 years in the future, so it's possible.
I want to be there, and I want to be able to come back to this video and say, I got to see her before she was this big fucking deal. And I knew that she was going to be that. And I can sit there and tell my friends, I told you, motherfucker. I told you.
Thank you.
I see you as the Phil Brooks of this the female Phil Brooks of this generation. I think that you could do fucking anything, but you're not super fucking like, oh, I'm this. You're very humble, and I hope that stays because so many people forget where they came from, and I don't think you will. You know, I mean, Chicago public schools, they humble you real quick, right?
Yeah, and European households. Yep.
That being said, we've almost hit that hour mark, and I don't want to take any more of your time, and I don't want it to drag on. I know you have other things to do. You are the Chicago sweetheart after all. You have all this other stuff. So that being said, thank you for your time. Is there anything else you want to say before we close it out?
I will say I don't know when this will be posted, but there's a pay-per-view this Saturday. Myself and Maddie against Pretty Empowered for the NWA Tag Team titles. So make sure you're watching that.
Another great one, Maddie Rinkowski, fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing. If you haven't had her on your show, she's hilarious.
I've tried. I haven't been able to reach out to her. Like I knew somebody that did, and they were kind of rude, and I was like, oh Jesus.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
That's not me. Like I was on their show one time, and I talked to Sabu for all of like 5 minutes. But yeah, like I'm very pro. Like, look, you can shit on me all you want. I'm here for you. Like you gave me the time, and like I told you before when we messaged, if you would have said December 29th at fucking 2 a.m, I would have been like, okay, I'll make it work because you're giving me the time, and I appreciate that. And anybody who sees this, we're not a big YouTube channel here, but at the same time, Miss has been nothing but as advertised as Chicago's sweetheart. She's been super sweet, and when she's not busy, she'll get right back to you. So, and I want to just express that you are very personable and very easy to work with. So, thank you so much for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That being said, I'm Dan. This is Missa Kate, and we'll see you in the next one.